beast stalker, giant stalker, dragon stalker, crypt stalker, demon stalker, rift stalker, Gron stalker, crypt stalker, scourge stalker, wind runner. I'm a pony, elite skilled hunter, a death dealer, a life stealer. That's just the cost of being awesome.
Welcome to episode 233 of the Hunting Party Podcast. I'm Darkbrew from thebrewhall.com and the Brew Hall on Twitter.
I'm Delirium from Thrill of the Wild and at Delirium Hunts on Twitter.
And I'm Bendak from Eyes of the Beast, Blizzard Watch, and Bendak WoW on Twitter.
All right, today is Sunday, February the 7th, 2016, and we are broadcasting live on twitch.tv. You can participate in the live chat room where our lovely moderator, Alessander, is there to take your questions. So we're actually going to, I think for the first time ever, I think we are going to definitely have a 1 hour, a 60-minute show, so we're told. So we'll move quickly. One announcement, I was looking at the WHU Facebook page, and it looks like they're trying to organize an all-hunter raid. They're going to be doing Heroic Highmaul, and it's currently scheduled for Saturday, February the 13th. You'll need a 700 or greater eye level, and that's going to be from 8 p.m. Eastern to midnight. You can check out the WHU Facebook page for more information. They do have a sign-up list on Open Raid, and I'll post that link in the show notes, of course, but for those listening now, it's going to be HTTP. Let's see, it's openraid.us/r/286176. That is the URL if you want to go check it out and sign up and participate. I mean, I'll see if I can do it. I don't know if I'll be available to do it, but it's nice to see that someone is taking the initiative here and going to try and do the all hunter raids, and things feel like they're wrapping up for Warlords of Draenor. So it's a good time to try those things. So I wish those guys good luck and can't wait to hear how that goes. Are you guys going to think about participating at all, or just wish everybody the best?
Yeah, I'm raiding that night, so.
Yeah, I think I might be busy, but we'll see.
It sounds fun. We haven't done any this expansion, so I'd like to get into it soon.
No, there's nothing since the Mists of Pandaria raids. That I think Artemis was the one instrumental in helping to organize that, as a matter of fact. So it's good to see folks giving that a try. And I don't know if there's been any like Druid raids or any. I don't think any of the other classes have attempted to do that type of content yet for Warlords of Draenor. So this will probably be the first of its kind for this expansion, which is exciting. Cool. So I don't know. I guess I want to talk about number of things. Obviously, the alpha is back, and I believe Delirium. Congratulations! I think you're now in the alpha. Is that correct? Along with Bendak? Good. I'm so jealous. So yeah, I'm working on it. Like I said, I did get my our guild finally killed Archimond Heroic, so I got my moose mount. So there's really nothing left for me to do in Warlords of Draenor right now, so I've got plenty of time and ready to go ahead and check out all the changes in Legion. So just I keep checking my launcher every day. But it is still an alpha. I mean, it feels like it's moving. Do you feel like it's moving slow or kind of moving at the same pace that Warlords of Draenor went?
Yeah, I didn't get into WAD until it was beta. I don't know what officially happens between an alpha and a beta, but. So it was, we were already at max level testing by the time I got in, which was what I want to test. So I'm not the leveling, it's fun, it's interesting, but I'm mostly just hankering to get into max level content and basically sit and chat wrath and hit some training dummies.
Yeah, well, I think it's going a little slower, and I think part of the reason is because of the holiday break they had. Because when you look at Warlords, I think from when Alpha first came out until release, it was somewhere in between 5 and 6 months. Mm-hmm. And I mean, Alpha has already been out for 2 months, and it's not even beta yet. So, and like all the specs aren't unlocked yet, all the zones aren't unlocked. So, I mean, I think it'll be a bit longer than Warlords, the whole process.
Yeah, it looks like that too. I said obviously, they did shut it down for a period of time over the holidays back in December, and it took a while for them to get it back up. Wasn't like as soon as the holidays were over, like right after the New Year's, they brought it back up. It hasn't been back that long. So I kind of feel the same way, which is interesting because I sort of felt like part of the reason why Warlords of Draenor felt like it took so long was because of the garrisons and all the assets and things they had to put together. That just seemed, as well as the character models and everything they had to work on, that just seemed like there were some features in there that really required a lot of work on art and animation, which my understanding is that seems to be what can take a long time to kind of polish and finish.
Yeah, though they seem to have that covered now, because I think the art is like, there's a lot of, like, the zones are they look finished to me. And I mean, there's all those artifacts.
The zones that are open.
Yeah, well, I think even the other ones people have gotten in there, and they're pretty much done. I mean, there's
I don't
still
know if you
like,
looked at Suriname much. Is that the name? The big city?
yeah,
But it's, it's just plain mesh.
untextured, yeah.
Yeah, untextured. That's the term. But it looks amazing.
But I think a lot of the
excited to get
reason is that it's taken so long is because they're redesigning so many specs
Right.
and artifacts and all that stuff.
Right, yeah, and a special quest line for each spec.
Yeah, they got to make how many specs are there? Like 36 or something like that. So they got
good.
Yeah, I mean, there's 3 per class, so the druids have 4. Is that right? Or what?
yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
34 total.
and there's 2 for
So-
demon hunters.
Oh, and demon hunters. I forgot about them.
Yeah, so you're right. That is a lot. That's a lot of individual spec story, not even class story, right? I mean, it'd be probably a lot of work if we was just doing it, one per class. But when you're talking about 1 per spec, yeah, that is a big deal. On top
It
of
does
all,
seem like there's a few things just when you're questing out in the world. There's extra quests that are kind of optional that you can do for other specs, weapons. Like there's one for what the Tauren's name is that had the survival artifact weapon, and like there's some special scenario you can do with him.
That was really fun. You play as him. Is that the one you're talking about?
Yep.
Yeah. And you're just like a total badass, like going around and just sweeping everyone, like at the
And that's
start
not
of
just for survival.
yeah. Yeah, exactly. I'm not sure if there's anything like that for marksmanship, though. I haven't seen anything yet. But
Yeah,
anyway.
I mean, all the Horde stuff is based around Sylvanas, so
Oh, okay.
there's a lot of stuff for it if you're Horde. I don't know if there is if you're Alliance.
that'd be kind of cool if you could play as Sylvanas for a little bit. If they did some scenario like that, would be kind of fun. But and Beast Mastery is still not enabled at this point in time, right? They haven't finished that one, so it's just marksmanship and survival. So, yeah, we'll talk about marksmanship today. I did want to talk about the transmog changes that are coming in Legion, because there are some implications for hunters specifically, some things to people to keep in mind there, and we haven't really addressed it yet. And there are actually overall some pretty good changes coming to transmog. We know we've got a lot of people out there that are collecting sets and like to do that, and as things wind down, this is probably time in the expansion where people looking for things to do and running around collecting transmog gear is one of them. So I thought we could just maybe talk about some of the things they're doing there, which most people know. We're going to get a wardrobe collection tab for all of the transmog gear, so we don't need to keep the items anymore, which that in and of itself, I mean, if that's all they had done, that would have made me pretty happy. They could have left it at that and done nothing else, and I would have said, that would have been a big win in my book. I mean, I think I have at least 45 slots in my bag are just gear that I've collected from this expansion alone.
Yep, exactly. I don't know what I'm going to do with all my 30 slot bags, because all the gear is going to be gone, and the bank and everything. I
don't know. I'm worried. Well, I don't know if you've seen it so far, but I mean, in Warlords, they did a lot of things to free up inventory. They gave bigger stack sizes and things like that. But I still had issues. It felt like I had more issues with my inventory this time around than I did in Mists of Pandaria. So I wouldn't be surprised if
it was a temporary fix for me. Like when Warlords first started, I had a bunch of free slots. I had like 80 free slots across my bank and inventory. But then it slowly eroded away to now I have 5 slots. So just no room. But yeah, this should solve all of that. Like, I don't think bag space. I don't know what else you're going to put in there, because you have the Regent Bank and all that stuff. So
exactly, yeah, the Regent Bank, and then the void storage. I mean, that's pretty much all anyone I would assume used void storage for, was to store the transmog gear. So I don't know what's going to happen with that. I don't know what I'm going to put in there now. Maybe some of the holiday gift items. Yeah, I feel like there's an abundance of space coming my way.
Yeah, I haven't looked at all. Is void storage still in the game?
I think so, yeah. I don't understand the point of it now though, because you put gear in there and it loses all of its enchants and everything. So
Yeah.
Right.
And I'm wondering, are you automatically going to? Will you be given the option to keep the gear, or will you automatically?
I'm pretty
lose it?
sure
No, you
the
can
way,
keep it.
yeah. I think all of your existing gear, it'll just get unlocked into your wardrobe,
Mm-hmm.
and you can do whatever you want with it.
Yeah.
Right, because just by having it, you unlock it.
Mhm.
You don't have to put it into the tab or anything.
Because now that we have those time walking dungeons, I mean, there's some of your tier gear you might want to keep on, might hang on to those set pieces just to have some fun, and use
Yeah,
those
for
set
sure.
bonuses and some of the trinkets and things like that. Just so there's some things that it just may be worthwhile to actually have the piece of gear on hand. I was trying to think of a couple other cool things. It said it was going to be everything was going to be account wide too, which I love that idea. So if all you do is play hunters, all your hunters now will have access to
Right.
all the gear.
And they also clarified that this also applies to challenge mode stuff. So if you have the challenge mode armor, all of your hunters will be able to wear it. And if you did the challenge mode weapons, you'll actually unlock all of the weapons for any class.
Oh, that's very nice. That's very
Yeah.
nice. Yeah. And I think they mentioned, I think it'll keep track of what you have, obviously, and some of the items that you may be missing. I mean, there's just, I don't know what they'll classify as missing. I mean, there's just so much gear and things you could get in the game. I just don't, it just seems like that would be.
Well, for each slot in the wardrobe, it'll say like you have collected like 85 out of 400 like chess pieces or something.
Uh-huh.
So I have a feeling they're going to add like achievements for like collect every single male chess piece. Or
Oh my gosh.
it's going to be ridiculous.
Yeah. And I think I saw somewhere, I think they mentioned at BlizzCon that all the past quest rewards that you'd ever earned will be returned back to you as well. That they'll
Even the stuff you never originally picked as a reward.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So anything that was offered as a reward for those quests will begin, which is great because I forget the name of the piece, but there's that eye patch that you got as a reward. There's a quest in Burning Crusade, and I'm pretty sure I vendored it on most of my tunes, if not all of them.
Yeah, you vendored it like 9 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. But it looks very cool, and I see you posted some of your sets with it on. It's like, oh, I really want that, and so
Yeah.
so I think that piece in and of itself, I very much look forward to getting that back. And I think they also said they'll be able to transmog weapon enchants, shirts, and tabards as well, which is kind of nice.
I'm hoping that they open up those weapon enchants, like the visuals to hunter weapons.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be nice. Certainly, obviously, the survival hunter weapon, the melee weapon, shouldn't be an issue, I wouldn't think. But
Okay, sorry, I meant real hunter weapons.
well, we just trying to embrace the change a little bit here.
Okay.
The fact that we're melee. But yes, I agree. It'd be kind of nice to have an effect on a gun, real gun, and then and if they could do it for crossbows and bows, that would be nice too. Not mandatory. I guess there is one downside to this, though, and I read the article over at Blizzard Watch, which just talked about armor changes in general, which was going to, I think, impact potential transmog sets that hunters may have been building. Other classes are impacted by this, but correct me if I'm wrong. Are we going to now be wearing male armor from the start? Is that the way I understand? Did I understand that correctly now?
Right. We don't
Yeah.
start with leather anymore. Just
Yeah.
male from the start.
Right. Which means I think they're converting some of those leather pieces. So I'm trying to understand. So I guess the issue is, and same thing with warriors and paladins. They're no longer going to start off wearing male armor. They're going to be wearing plate armor. So some of these pieces, I believe that were male pieces, correct, are going to be converted over to plate.
Yeah.
The way I understand it. So if there may be some, I guess, male pieces that you may have had in a set that are going to get converted to plate. That's the sort of the bottom line here. And I don't really, not familiar with which pieces those are, or what kind of sets, or how hunters may have been piecing those together, how creative folks might have been using those. But sounds like you might be having some of our sets, transmog sets, if you will, getting broken up as a result of this change.
Yeah, any male pieces that you had that you use for transmog that are under level 40 theoretically are changing to plate. So who knows? I don't know. I'm hoping that Blizzard will have some kind of solution for that.
Right.
Because I don't think it's not something they usually do, is take something away from people, stuff they've earned. So I don't know how they'll handle it. Maybe these items will be flagged as like a special case that male users could still transmog them, or maybe they add replacements somewhere that you can get. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it would be nice. And I imagine these are probably any like I say, level under pieces that are under level 40 and probably have strength on them are what's getting changed over.
Yeah.
And I don't know how many male pieces are out
That's
there.
true. That's true.
Agility.
If it's male and it's under 40 and it has agility and intellect, I guess it would stay. I guess it would just stay as it is.
I would think so. I mean, I don't think shaman have that same restriction. They just start with male, right? They don't start off with leather.
I don't
know.
No,
I mean,
they had leather as well.
Did they?
Oh.
Okay. I wasn't sure.
So it's strength mail. That's the only issue. Yeah.
Is there even any strength mail anymore?
Just
There
the
is for
below
the-
40. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mail?
I think
No.
Yeah.
Like right now?
Yeah.
Who would wear it?
warriors and paladins.
Oh, I
Yeah.
see. Because they are. So are they changing
Right.
warriors and paladins to use plate from?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
They're just sort of normalizing that across the board for all the classes. So
Yeah, that makes more sense.
so we won't start off with leather, and so I mean this change impacts other classes too. I imagine rogues potentially could be impacted by this if they were collecting some of these leather pieces that'll get converted to mail, and some of those mail pieces getting converted to plates.
I don't think any leather's being converted to mail. I think it's just plate going to mail. Or I mean, mail going to plate.
Mail going to plate.
Yeah.
So
I
what
don't
would
think
they?
there's. Yeah.
I mean, would they be introducing a new set of gear for us to get us quest rewards then as we level up, or?
I guess so. I
I
mean,
mean, I don't know. I mean, I so many people I just use BOA gear if I need to create a new tune, so I don't even think about it
okay.
much. So it doesn't really matter as much.
I mean, this does seem to be a common thread, though, with they're trying to simplify things, but it messes up new players quite a lot. It's not going to matter to any of us, probably to anyone listening, but to a new player coming in, I hope they still have something worth doing.
Yeah, and BM Yeager in the chat room is saying no leather is, as far as he knows, no leather is being converted. So it's just mail going to plate, so it only screws the hunters and the shamans. Yeah, it does. And like I said, and I imagine, some of the collectors, there may even be some like full mail sets that are just going to become plate, and you're just not going to be able to wear them at all. So we'll see how that all shakes out. But overall, I think the transmog changes coming in Legion are pretty awesome. And that's pretty good stuff. It's really going to free up your inventory and just taking kind of the next step, right? I'll probably spend more time collecting pieces now, especially if I can have a better visual of what's out there, what's not, might be willing to pay more attention to it and know that it's not going to blow my inventory to go out there and track some of this stuff down.
mm-hmm.
And the account-wide stuff would be nice too, because I'm sure I have some pieces on other hunters that I don't have on my main tune, and that'll just save some time there. Cool. Well, why don't we talk about marksmanship then in Legion? Because I don't think we've touched on everything, but I thought maybe we could just sort of focus on how that's starting to shape up and get you guys thoughts on that, since you've had some first-hand experience with the changes right now. So just general impressions. I'll start with you, Delirium. General impressions of marksmanship so far in the alpha?
Yeah, it's, as many hunter specs have been through the ages, incredibly overpowered for leveling. There's not much within 10 levels of you that you can't take down unless you just happen to pull, 500 mobs as you're running by. The focus is, instead of on, pet tanking, you're kiting the whole time. But you have plenty of tools to deal with that as long as you can manage the number of mobs you have. So yeah, I had a lot of fun leveling with it. Certainly some questions still for max level content, how it's going to feel with raiding. I think they have a neat idea with the Hunter's Mark, and we'll get into this in a minute, I assume, but the Hunter's Mark to vulnerabilities stacks. I think that's a neat idea. It'll be fun if they tune it well, and it'll be really boring if they tune it poorly. So we'll just have to kind of wait and see what their vision is for it.
Yeah. And how about you, Bendak? What do you think about marksmanship so far?
I mean, yeah, I like it. I like it more than survival so far. So, which is saying a lot since it doesn't have a pet, and I kind of enjoy the pet. So, I mean, yeah, like even though you don't have a pet, you still have that Dark Ranger talent, and that keeps a pet summon for you like at least half of the time, if not more, because it has a pretty high chance to proc, and there's lots of tools to kite. I didn't have any problem at all like staying alive. The only thing I had a problem with was, I mean, you still get hit by ranged attacks because there's always not a pet tanking for you, but you do have a heal now, the exhilaration. It's a baseline heal. The only problem is it's 2-minute cooldown. So I just feel like if they added a replacement for what we had with kill shot, when you use kill shot, you get a little heal. I think we need something like that, just like a little maintenance heal, because it's just, unless their intention is for, they want people's eating again, because I've been doing that a fair amount. I don't know about you, Delirium, but I've actually been sitting to eat sometimes.
Yeah, especially the first few levels when I was getting used to it. It's a lot of stopping to eat.
And you have to do a lot more kiting since you don't have a pet now, or do you just sort of stand there and shoot and slow it? I mean, what's the approach been?
The more I get into it, the more I realize I don't actually have to kite most of the things that I was kiting. You can just sit there and face tank it for the most part, unless you're doing in a rare elite. You're not going to take that much damage from 1 or 2 mobs. There are a few that'll get you, but I think for the most part, while leveling, it wasn't really an issue, unless you really like going out and searching for the rares. Searching for things they have a lot of rares that are 6 eye levels higher than you, or stay 110 regardless of where you're scaled to. And so those were kind of fun to try out and see what you could do. And in that case, you have to kite. You can't pull it off just face tanking. But I think there's, for the most part, if you don't want to run around, you can just sit there and take it and then eat once you kill it.
Yeah, and also I found I just start all of my fights at like 40 yards, and then I was using exotic munitions because it's a level 45 talent now, and it's which is a lot better place for it, I think. And with the frost ammo, and then they're dead by the time they get to you most of the time. Of course, I feel like I'm cheating with this headshot talent, though.
Right, yeah. I've seen several people make that comment.
So maybe it's not, maybe it is a little tougher once they tone down headshot, because I don't think it's supposed to be that powerful. I hope it is, but I'm just not going to count on it. It's one of the talents. I think it's level 75.
Yeah, it looks like a level 75 talent. Yeah. So it's what? Oh, this is the one. Yeah, go ahead.
It's kind of like an instant power shot. Yeah, that's basically what powerful. It is. Yeah, and it does a lot of damage. Let's just say that.
Right. So most mobs at this point, I assume it'll be tuned down, but at this point, most mobs it will one shot, or at worst, you might have to precast an aimed shot, and then you can have an aimed shot and the headshot going off at the same time, and that'll kill just about anything.
Right. And mechanically, headshot works a little different than what we're used to. I mean, it's an instant cast, has a 10-second cooldown, but the damage is based on the amount of focus you have. Is that right? So, I mean, the more higher your focus, the more damage that this shot is going to do?
Right now, it doesn't work like that, but I'm guessing that's the intention.
I mean, right now, it is kind of acting like that, just not enough for most people to notice. So, on average, it does more damage when you have full focus than if you have 20 focus, but not enough that you're going to care. So you're just going to use it whenever you want, especially while leveling.
Now, how much
finish off anything you have?
Now, does it just consume the focus that you have? I mean, when you look at the description, it just says, the cost being 22 100 focus. I assume if you have 100 focus, it's going to do a lot of damage, but boom, it's just going to use all your focus to fire.
Yeah. and depending on what talent you have, you're getting 10 to 20 focus per second, or 10 to 15 focus per second. So it's not. I mean, cast one arcane shot after that, and you have enough focus to cast whatever else you want to. Running out is not a problem. Capping is a much bigger problem.
Is it? Okay? Well, that's certainly one way to dump it all, isn't it? But be interesting to see how that plays out in terms of is there like a sort of a sweet spot with which you want to, in terms of the focus you want to have to cast it, versus just firing it wherever you're at on cooldown. I don't know. It's a sort of a different way of approaching an ability than what we're used to. And then
it'll be interesting once they finish all the tuning to see where that hits. I think someone mentioned in our chat, unnamed sources at Blizzard said that they weren't planning on tuning that until they'd finished tuning the core abilities. So we really won't see what headshots intended to be for quite a while.
But what are some of the other things too? What were you talking about before? You were talking about, was it the marked shot as well? That mechanic. I mean, survival. Other than the lack of a pet, or not survival. I mean, marksmanship, I should say. Other than the fact that it doesn't use a pet, they seem to have changed this quite a bit. I mean, does it feel like the current marksmanship, or is it feeling much different?
Right. Yeah. So I think it has absolutely nothing in common with the current marksmanship. I mean, they're both using ranged weapons, physical damage. That's about the extent of it. The core,
aim shot.
Yeah,
it's the only common thing.
Mm-hmm. And that even doesn't feel the same anymore. But the kind of core mechanic that you're working with is, so arcane shot has a chance. We think it's a little less than 50%, but I don't know if anybody's seen it in any of the data mining. But it has a chance to proc Hunter's Mark. Once Hunter's Mark is on a target, you can cast a marked shot on it. Casting a marked shot will create a vulnerability stack on that target. And the vulnerability stack, each stack increases the damage of your aimed shot by 25%. You can have up to 3 stacks. So you're the basic function is you want to build stacks by casting arcane and then marked shot until you have 3 stacks, and then dump all your focus with aim shot, rinse and repeat. I mean, it's a little more complicated than that, depending on which talents you pick and other things. But that's the basics of it. And so there's no more. Everything fits around this 9-second chimera shot. There's none of that.
Yeah, this is really not a signature. Yeah. It's quite a bit different. It's kind of, I mean, it works. It's kind of weird still. I'm just getting used to it,
I've seen several of the bigger names. I think Bellular Gaming, who remains a hunter as far as I know, but does all sorts of WoW reviews on YouTube, was talking about it feeling kind of boring because when he was testing it on the target dummies, he never lost his 3 stacks of vulnerability. He could keep that up 100% of the time. But just looking through a lot of logs of the raid testing, it doesn't look like pretty much anybody's been able to do that in a raid environment. You're not able to keep up 3 stacks all the time.
Right.
Yeah. That could be partly a product of it being a new spec and people not knowing how to play it well. But for the most part, nobody was able to keep up 3 stacks. So there are going to be some interesting decisions, I think. There's also this issue of what to do. So arcane shot not only what procs Hunter's Mark, but also gives you focus. So you need to decide whether it's worth trying to proc another Hunter's Mark, or if you want to dump some focus with arcane or with an aim shot or a talent. So I think there's going to be some interesting choices going on, some fun theory crafting to do.
Yeah. And where do you think Black Arrow and Lock and Load fall into this? I mean, Black Arrow is a level 15 talent, whereas Lock and Load's level 100 talent. But obviously, those are the carryovers from the old survival. And I think in an attempt to kind of appeal to those people who liked the survival spec and have it feel like they can still find that somewhere in the Hunter toolkit. Have you played around with those at all? Have they seem to fit in?
Yeah, lock and load it does kind of feel like survival's lock and load on a extreme ability. So if it happens to proc while you've got 3 stacks of vulnerability, it feels awesome. It's fun, but it's just this kind of total RNG, total crapshoot. Who knows when it's going to proc, or if it'll be useful at that point. And sometimes you'll go forever without a proc. I mean, a minute maybe without a proc. It's not fun to do in that case. I do like Black Arrow. I have trouble thinking it's going to be a really great ability because it's kind of easier. It's an easy thing to use as you're focused on. So you can have up to 3 stacks of Black Arrow now on one target, or on, I don't know if it's total. Bendak, do you know? Can you spread it out on 3 targets?
You can spread it, yeah.
Okay, so 3 stacks on however you spread it out. So you can kind of weave it in between. So if you need to do, arcane, marked shot, now you've got 1 stack, but you've got too much focus, so you can cast your Black Arrow and then go back to arcane, marked shot, Black Arrow, while you're trying to build up your stacks of whatever that is, vulnerability.
Yeah, and it should be noted too that Black Arrow has no interaction, no bearing on lock and load, like you see now. That the lock and load talent is procced by auto shots, I believe. Yeah, auto attacks.
So right now, the way it's tuned, and I have no idea if this was how it will be in the end, but Black Arrow, 1 cast of it is significantly weaker than a marked shot. So really, unless you're capping, there's no reason to use it. I mean, unless you're gonna just have wasted focus otherwise. And it's significantly less powerful, like a huge amount less powerful than a aimed shot once you have stacks of vulnerability. So it's kind of hard to tell where it's going to fit into the rotation and if it will.
And then what about this other level 75 talent, heightened vulnerability, which basically says your next marked shot applies 3 stacks of vulnerability to all marked targets, and it's an ability. It's an instant cast with a 20-second cooldown, and it competes with headshot.
To me, it looks like a nice target switching talent. So you don't have to build up those stacks, or not even target switching, but also just like what Delirium was talking about, the logs he was looking at. People weren't able to keep those stacks up, but with this thing, you can always automatically get your 3 stacks back up if you accidentally drop them or something like that. And it's only a 20-second cooldown, and it costs nothing. You just put it up there, and the buff stays there. You could use it. You could not use it for a minute, and it would still be up there. So, yeah, it's interesting. Like right now, I can't compete with headshot right now, but
I think in raids, this is going to be the go-to talent. Having to stay on 1 target as much as we might want to just spam 1 target, it's just not useful. Heightened vulnerability is a great talent for switching targets and for making sure, especially early on in the expansion, making sure you have all that up. It's a 20-second cooldown, right? I don't have it in front of me.
20-second cooldown on that one. Yes.
Yeah, which is just, I don't know. That makes everything very easy. I don't know. It's hard to imagine that won't be the kind of main talent in that tier.
Yeah, target switching.
Headshot, right. Yeah, target switching.
Target switching, if you screw up, you'll be able to recover, and also for opening too. Like you can open with your full stacks.
And then the other talent on that level 75 tier is called Light 'em Up. I mean, it's just, I don't, and the description is targets affected by your flare take 10% extra damage from all of your attacks. I mean, it's interesting. I just never envisioned really using flare as part of the DPS rotation.
In my opinion, I don't like that talent, and I don't think it'll survive the beta, but I don't know. What do you think, Delirium?
Yeah, I don't know.
Did you
like
know it
maybe
existed? I mean,
it would fit in the PvP talent tree. Not sure
right?
what it's doing over here, but
Well, that's what I'm thinking too. I mean, it sounds like it'd be something that might have some value in PvP, but it doesn't need to be here, right? You know, for this is really a PvE set of skills. So I don't know. I agree. This feels like a placeholder, if you will, just something that would probably get no one. I can't imagine any scenario where you would actually take it. So I mean, it would just be probably just worthwhile to drop it and have them come up with something else. I don't. Yeah, I agree with you, Bendak. I don't think this is going to make it to live at all. But it's you know. But it was curious, especially when you look at the other two options there. It just doesn't seem to compete at all.
I mean, once it's all theory crafted out, maybe it'll be the best DPS, but I hope it's not.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, how long does the flare? I don't know how long the flare lasts on the ground. I don't.
you can leave it up 100% of the time.
Yeah, isn't it 20 seconds on a 20-second cooldown?
Yeah,
And
something like that.
Yeah.
I think if they left that, they would have to increase the range, because isn't it a lower range? You'd have to run towards the target to cast it.
Oh yeah, it might be. I don't know.
Because if I remember correctly, it's like a 20-yard or a 15-yard range, and that would suck to have to move up to them.
I'm just not a fan of that type of maintenance type talent. I don't know. I mean, some people might be. That's not.
Yeah, I just
my
don't
thing.
trust my tanks to hold still.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you've got to. It relies on the target kind of being kept in one spot. You assume it's going to be a boss, and then it's kind of kludgy too. I mean, you know, you've got to kind of place it. It's not like a shot or just a simple ability that you can just fire at the target. So you know, you've got to spend a little bit of time futzing around with that. So yeah, I like I said, I don't think that's going to make it through. But it's an interesting concept, I guess. I mean, there's some other talents up here too. Maybe we just I mean, level 15 we saw had Black Arrow. There was Steady Focus, and then True Aim was the other one. I think that this tree's more or less stayed intact. I think from earlier shows that we've talked about.
Right.
But is there a clear winner here? I mean, Steady Focus, although you said you're having issues capping focus, so it doesn't sound like that would be necessary to take that at all.
Yeah, I think in a single target fight where you can just plant your feet and focus on your rotation, Steady Focus is nice. You can get a lot out of it. It's just that initial point where you're trying to build up the 3 stacks of vulnerability where you run into trouble. After that, it's nice to be able to cast 2 arcane shots and then spam aimed for a while.
Right. And then True Aim is I like that. This one seems kind of neat too. For every successive arcane, marked, or aim shot used to attack the same target, those shots deal 2% more damage to the target, stacking up to 20 times, and can only affect one target at a time. So I assume as soon as you switch a target and you have that, you lose whatever stacks are on the previous target. It'll start building up stacks on whatever your current target is.
Yeah, I think the stacks last 3 seconds. So if you don't refresh it, you lose your stacks. So you know, if you're casting another talent or something like Black Arrow or Headshot, you know, you got to be really quick getting back to another shot that'll refresh that.
But it just seems like if there was ever incentive to just sit on a single target for a period of time, this is it. This is the I'm gonna kill the boss talent and let everyone else deal with the ads talent. Although I don't know how much, arcane marked or aimed, I don't know how often you're not going to be spamming those necessarily either, but still.
It's kind of, I find it pretty spammy. It's just, I find it's easy to get carried away with the arcane shot spam. Like you're just hitting it, and then all of a sudden you have a mark shot proc, but you're hitting arcane shot again because you didn't think you'd had a proc, and it's just. It's something to get used to, I guess. I think it's partially like the travel time.
Right, the flight time on Arcane means if you're at max distance, you've got about a second before the Hunter's Mark proc shows up, which can be frustrating. Same thing, like if you switch from an Arcane and start casting a aimed shot, you know, you're almost done with your cast and you realize, oh, I actually got that hunter's mark. Should have been casting a marked shot right now. It can be a little frustrating.
And with the arcane shot as the focus regen, do you feel like it's giving a lot of control over managing focus at this point? I mean, it's just an instant ability. There's no cooldown to it, so you can just hit it whenever you want.
No, still the vast majority of your focus is coming from your base focus regen per second.
I find most of the time when I'm casting arcane shot or spamming it, I'm spamming it because I want a proc, not because I want focus.
Right.
The hunter's
Yeah,
mark
so
proc.
arcane's 5 or 10 if you get a crit with the artifact. You know, so you get 10 per second anyways. So at best you're doubling it, but usually you're getting 50% more focus, a little less actually, because you've got haste also.
So
also should be noted that the focus pool has been reduced back to 100 for marksmanship.
Oh, it has. So there's no more. What is it? 120 now, or are we at 110?
Yeah, we're at 120 on live.
120.
It doesn't really affect things too much. Like I didn't notice until someone else mentioned it. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, it's really just focus isn't a huge part of the game right now. It's there, it's part of it, but it's not as big as the order that you're doing things.
Yeah.
So at level 30, the talent trees these are all sort of movement enhancing abilities. There was post haste, which I guess is after you disengage, you can frees you from all movement and pairing effects, increases your movement speed by 60%. I mean that's always handy. Far Strider, whenever your attacks cause a critical strike, there's a chance the cooldown of disengage will be reduced by 10%.
That's a useless talent in my experience.
Yeah. Yeah, I've never really felt like there are very few instances where I've used disengage and felt like I was, in a bind, waiting for it to come back off cooldown so I can use it again. But
it might turn out that this is good combined with kill flip, which we'll get to later. But when I tried it out, it just wasn't happening that much, or even I don't even know if it was working, to be honest. But even just looking at it, I'm kind of like, well, reduces the cooldown of disengage by 10%. Like, well, what is that? Like 2 seconds or something like that? I mean, you'd have to get a lot of procs in a disengage cooldown for that to even be noticeable.
Yeah, and then the dash talent just increases the duration of aspect of the cheetah for 3 seconds. Again, I don't. That just seems kind of useless as well. I mean, it seems like a post haste would be maybe the clear winner here.
Right.
Yeah,
That 3
definitely.
seconds, it adds 3 seconds to the sprint and the after.
Okay.
The after speed.
Mm-hmm.
But some other sad news. Aspect of the cheetah is now a 3-minute cooldown.
Yeah, exactly. And do all the aspects, are they on a shared cooldown now as well, or are they independent?
That's the only. The other aspects are different. Like there's like a BM one that's like a actual DPS cooldown.
Right.
I think. Yeah, there's no like aspect of the pack anymore. So.
Yeah, which is fine, and then that ability caused more trouble than those. I don't even pop it anymore. I stopped using it long ago, at least in raids.
Yeah, post haste is I use that all the time right now. It's just really handy for kiting.
So at level 45, they have piercing shots, which is the bleed ability, which Marksmanship kind of used to have. Exotic munitions, which you said you were using for leveling. Interesting. And then broadside, which was aim shot will hit all vulnerable targets for 100% physical damage. It seems like a pretty cool ability.
Yeah, broadside, it sounds better than it works out in practice because your marked shot also is hitting those targets. And marked shot's doing, 350% weapon damage. So there's not, until you get to just tons and tons of ads, there's not a point where you're doing better off with broadside than you would just spam, hitting arcanes and marked shots. Or in between multi-shot, you can weave it with marked shots. So I think broadside, it needs a buff to make it really worthwhile. Or they could make it so it works with vulnerability, or the vulnerable, whatever you call it, that 75% buff you get. It needs something to make it worth using. That's my point of all that babbling.
Understood. So let's do this. Rather than go through all the rest of these, maybe we can just highlight one or two that are interesting, and then we can move on and talk about the artifact weapon, because unlike most weeks, we are on a schedule here, and we are running out of time pretty fast. Just looking, we know volley is back. I mean, how does that compare with Barrage or Murder of Crows? I mean, a lot of people are excited to get volley back.
Yeah, I haven't tried it at all. I don't know if you have been.
It doesn't work yet.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
Yeah, so it's not as good as Barrage or Murder.
No,
it
works, but it does like 30 damage per hit, and the graphics don't look finished, so it's hard to say.
Okay, so it sounds like that's a work in progress then.
Yep.
But it'll be interesting to see how that one bears out. And then the level 100, we've sort of talked about Lock and Load, and then Kill Flip and Dark Ranger were the other two. I mean, I like the idea of Dark Ranger, although it seems to have sort of an undead lean to it. It feels very cool if you're an undead hunter, but maybe seems a little odd for regular hunters. What are your thoughts on the Dark Ranger? How's that one looking?
I love Sylvanas, so I'm fine with any undead stuff.
It's my favorite talent in that tier.
Does it? I haven't tried much in the way of dungeons. Does it get in the way on dungeons? The taunting?
Yeah, I haven't tried it in dungeons either, and that's something that apparently it doesn't turn off in dungeons. So that it's a big problem for dungeons, because these things auto taunt.
Right, and since you don't have a pet bar for them, you can't. You have no control over what they're doing.
It'd be nice if they just said it so, like, if you're inside a dungeon, they don't taunt or something.
Yeah,
like
that would be good.
Yeah.
And then Kill Flip was the one where after you disengage, you did 50% more damage for 8 seconds, which seems crazy.
Yeah, that one's silly.
Yeah, it's silly, and it doesn't work yet either. So.
Yeah. I mean, it just sounds like it has the potential to be a little bit too powerful anyway. Perhaps so. Who knows? Maybe it'll get nerfed before or another one that maybe will get on the chopping block too and get replaced with something else. We'll have to see. But let's move on and talk about the artifact weapon and some of the traits here for marksmanship. I know Delirium, you were looking at, you and I were talking about that earlier, and you were sort of wanted to maybe approach this by looking at some of the traits and the abilities that they affect. Right.
Yeah. So the artifact weapon is kind of set up to make it look, I think, a little more complicated than it actually is. In the end, these do kind of work a lot like Draenor perks did. Basically, they're just improving certain abilities. I think we have, 2 or 3 completely new abilities from them, but they're not necessarily things you're going to be using anyways. I guess Windburst is the only thing you actually could put on your bars and use. But for the most part, I think we have a lot of improvements to abilities we already have or will have by the time we start Draenor or 7.0 pre-patch.
Yeah, and of course, unlike the Draenor perks, which you just, well, I mean, I guess you got them as you leveled and kind of. Did they say, I haven't leveled in so long. I remember it was kind of random order.
Yeah. It was every 2 levels, and you got a random one of 5.
And I don't know if they changed it so they put them in a specific order. Not that it mattered too much, but anyway, the point is the difference with the artifact weapons is, of course, you're going to have like a tree, an artifact, like a skill tree, and you're going to have to pick and choose your path to get to whatever the major ability is that you want. You're going to have to try and find the easiest path to get there and get things in a specific order, which of course will mean getting things you probably could care less about. Couldn't care less about, I should say.
But I think in the end, you're going to be unlocking all of these. It's not, you're making some choices while leveling, but not for end game. By the time you're raiding, you should have, I think definitely the hardcore raiders will have all of them unlocked. A lot of farming to do, though.
Mm-hmm.
We want to jump into a few of them.
Yeah. Why don't you pick out a couple that you're...
We can quickly go over a few of them. Aimed shot has 4 different artifact traits that are affecting it, but the basics is, you're going to be increasing critical strike damage. Focus cost will be reduced from 50 to 40 to 44. Sorry, and you also get a pretty cool on-equip ability from the artifact weapon that you get without unlocking. It's just automatically there. It looks like roughly every minute and a half. I'm not sure what the actual RPPM is, but you have a chance for 6 what they're calling wind arrows, but they show up in your logs as additional aimed shots. But they show up just right in a row on your target, and they do, I'm pretty sure, 100% weapon damage. So it's basically like 6 successive, really quick auto shots, knocking down your target. It's random, but it's kind of fun when it does happen.
Speaking of knocking down targets.
There went my beer.
Oh, no. And you said that's probably going to be like I said, the RPPM for that.
Yeah, that's what I think from looking at logs. It's hard to tell at this point until I can really get on a training dummy and figure it all out.
Right, and so then there's that wind burst, which is the first artifact trait you get, and it's it's the one new shot you can add. And it's 3-second cast, costs no focus, 45-second cooldown. It does 500% weapon damage and leaves a trail of wind on the ground. And you or people in your group can run through that for a speed boost.
Right, so it's actually, I don't know why it says 500 on the tooltip. It's actually doing roughly 240 to 250% weapon damage at the moment. I don't know if that's going to be the final iteration of it or how they're going to balance it. But right now it's really weak compared to aim shot or marked shot. So its only place is at the your pre-pull, because it has a super long cast. Or if and it doesn't cost any focus, so it works okay on the pre-pull. And if you need to run somewhere really quick, you might want to cast that a few seconds early. I don't know how much help that's going to be or how much you're going to be able to plan that out, but it doesn't
I don't
have
know.
a nice rotation as it is.
Yeah, that's one of those things that sounds kind of neat, and maybe once you get into some of the dungeons or the raids and see some of the boss encounters, you might find some situational uses for it. But yeah, I mean, a 3-second cast time. Wow, I mean that just seems a bit long. I mean, that's a long time for a casted ability. For me, 3 seconds. I mean, I'd almost rather see that be a channeled, ability when you're going to that duration rather than casting. When you're waiting for the thing to wind up, it just feels like a long time. Whereas if you're channeling something, well, at least you feel like you're getting some benefits out of it right away.
Yeah, it's like Delirium said, you can't really fit it into your rotation at this point. It's just kind of a situational thing, and I don't even know how many situations there will be for it, because most of the time you don't need to run up to the target. I mean, I guess your melee can get to the boss faster when you pull. I think it'd be cooler if, in addition to increasing the speed of your allies, it decreased the speed of your enemies that are running towards you. I mean, that'd be at least something. I mean, you could use that, just anywhere, even in PvP.
Right.
Like lay down a wind burst thing, and then the enemies running towards you, they're slowed down. That's pretty cool. It's almost like a really long freezing trap or something, or ice trap. But as it stands now, it's kind of, it's like use it on the opener and forget about it.
Yeah, I think most of these they're pretty basic. Get 10% more damage by your marked shot. Get 10% more on your multi-shot. I think they're not very interesting. And we aren't going to have some of these abilities long enough to notice. So it's not like we've had these abilities for several expansions, and now they're getting buffed. They're getting buffed a day after we get them. I guess we'll have the pre-patch to play with them first. But so a lot of True Shot is our big cooldown now. And so a lot of these are maybe cool, but they should really just be part of the basic cooldown. Rapid Killing increases crit damage to doing 250% of your regular hit. which is pretty awesome. I think the value of crit for marksmanship is going to be just insane. There's several that increases crit damage for aimed shot, and I think your arcane shot gets a benefit from crit also, doing double the focus return. But for the most part, there's nothing that's going to be affecting your rotation in here. Some of the... Oh, where's the one, Bendak, you know, that works as the execute?
Yeah, that's bullseye. It's
Bullseye, right.
Yeah, special attacks against a target below 20% health grant 3% critical strike buff for 6 seconds, and it stacks. So
yeah, right now it's not unlocked yet on the beta or alpha, whatever we're in. Or at least you can only get 10 levels into the artifact, and we can't get there yet. But that could be cool. 3% crit buff for... I don't know how many... Did they say... is there a limit on that?
it doesn't say there's a limit.
No.
So I'd imagine you'd just be able to eventually, on a boss, you'll get up to 100% crit. Maybe by the time the boss is like 10 or 15% health. So that is kind of cool.
Especially for the big bosses.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's definitely something where you'll notice a difference at the end of a fight there. I like that.
And that, I just thought of this just right now, so maybe other people have already been thinking about it. But I wonder if right now we kind of snipe our kill shots, like look for a target that's below 20 and use it. I wonder if we could do that here, where you look for something and just cast an arcane on it if you need to, and just build up some stacks during the fight if there are extra ads coming out or something's dying. You want to get that extra buff anytime you can.
Yeah, it could be interesting as long as the buff is on you and not on the target.
Yeah, I was thinking.
Right.
And it doesn't necessarily say what it would be. Well, who knows? And maybe they would change it to be on the target itself in that sense. But because as you said, if it is on the hunter and you have one of these multi-ad fights, like I said, you just start cherry picking certain targets just to buff your crit, and then go back to whatever, like the main target, and have this huge crit buff on you. That is something I can see.
Sounds good to me.
People doing, and that is something I can see being taken away real quick. So.
And then hold your true shot until right after some ads you're dying, so you've got that extra 50% crit chance at that point, and get that crit buff or crit damage buff. Yeah, that'll be amazing.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens. But.
So yeah, I mean, like the big abilities here are big traits. Also we're going to get one to call the Hunter, which Mark Shot has a chance to summon a regiment of fallen hunters to rain arrows down upon your foes. That seems kind of neat. Be curious to see how that is implemented and what that looks like.
Yeah, and that's another one of the not implemented yet talents. I look forward to seeing it. I'm hoping. So I think it's mages right now have some ability, like maybe they're 4-piece that. It spawns a ghost of heroes from Azeroth, and one of them is Sylvanas. They can, and Illyria, I think, is another one. So they can spawn 2 hunters, and I'm really hoping that we can spawn random hunters.
That'd be hilarious.
That would be awesome.
I've been very jealous of the mages taking advantage of our hunters. So.
And then I think the final one was Whispers of the Past, which while True Shot is active, wind arrows will stream out of your bow every, I guess, 1.5 seconds and strike any target with your Hunter's Mark. So,
yeah, that one's a little broken right now. It's only happening about every 3 seconds. And the whole Hunter's Mark, the idea of it is you only cast it for a second. It's only up for a second, and then you're using Mark Shot to convert it into vulnerabilities. So really, you shouldn't have Hunter's Mark up that often. It's not a buff that you want to just keep up on your target.
Gotcha.
So I don't know how that's going to end up working. Maybe it needs to be both vulnerability or Hunter's Mark, or just vulnerabilities. I don't know, but it doesn't really work as is.
Well,
hopefully there's something in store. Yeah.
Yeah, and remember, this is all preliminary, right? This is just alpha. We're not even in the beta yet, so all of this stuff is subject to change, and we know a lot of it is going to change, which kind of why I like this, because we always have something cool to talk about every other week. But it looks like we are up against our hour here, our time here, so we'll just we'll just close it out for today and say, hey, you have been listening to episode 233 of the Hunting Party Podcast. I'm Darkbrew from thebrewhall.com and the Brewhall on Twitter.
I'm Delirium from thrillofthewild.com and at Delirium Hunts on Twitter.
And I'm Bendak from Eyes of the Beast, Blizzard Watch, and Bendak Wow on Twitter.
All right, check us out on iTunes, YouTube, Stitcher, or add our RSS feed to your reader, and these links will be available in our show notes.
If you have a question or a topic you would like us to announce on the show, email us at huntingpartypodcast@gmail.com or send us a tweet at huntingpartypod.
All right, stay thirsty, my friends, and remember to drink your dark brew lager.
Siempre prestar la emoción de lo salvaje.
Keep your eyes on the beast.
For Azeroth.
Life stealer, that's just the cost of being awesome sauce. A dues payer, a boss slayer. I rock out with my lockout I'm a hunter. I'm a hunter. I'm a hunter. I'm a hunter. Viper to cheetah to dragon hawk. No time to waste, cause I can jump shot. BM, MM, and SV. I can rock out any tree. Never worried about my threat, cause I've got FD and misdirect. Catching loose mobs in my traps. I never miss, cause I am hit capped. Cause I'm the hunter, not the marked. I'm the fighter, not the spark. I'm the kiter, not the kite. I'll top the meters every fight. Rated and game dealing death. Just me, my gun, and my trusty bed. Now let's begin with Illidan, Osirian, and Gil'jadan, Magdamar, Asgalor, Gruul, Cthulhu, and Razorgore, Onyxia to Ragnaros. Which one have we killed the most? Kel'Thuzad to Malagos. We even killed the Kama's ghost. Feels like we're getting close, all that running as a ghost. Yogg-Saron, Thorian, Sartharian, Magtheridon, Sapuron, Lucifer to Sulfuron, Archelon, Amalon, Corellon, and Algalon. The faction champions, the death toll rolling on and on. Garvale, Executus, Chromagus, and Charexus. Moan, Luru, kill this. We won't stop till we kill our boss. I'm a hunter.